Hello and welcome back to another episode of Marketing Across Industries. And I'm here with the co-founders of The Machine, Carlos and Nira. And today we're talking entertainment. Now you were at Paramount, and one of the brands that you worked for was Nickelodeon. Can you tell me a bit about that?
Yeah, sure. We had, this was in Europe, so it was a different market. And we were trying to, Nickelodeon wasn't as iconic as it was here in the US. It was popular, it was doing well, but it had room to grow. And what was kind of beginning to explode at the day was SpongeBob SquarePants.
Oh, of course.
He landed in kind of dubious territory. Like people were like, "What the hell is this square thing on my screen?" And then at one point it just exploded in popularity. People just adored him, and we kind of used him a lot to open a lot of doors for the channel.
Really?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
in what ways were you able to use, like what was so special, do you think, about this spongy man here that was able to open the doors to Europe for a brand like Nickelodeon?
So there was a lot of competition. It was a bit of a different market because the cable industry in Europe is different from the US. The penetration is not here. It's like 100% almost.
Yeah.
US is not like that. I'm sorry, Europe is not like that. But the character was becoming so popular and so going so viral. Kids, adults, also were like loving it. So we started doing just a lot of things, with it. And we had two properties, SpongeBob and Dora the Explorer, that were doing very well. But SpongeBob was really carrying most of the weight, and that our ratings started going up with that. So we said, okay, how can we kind of come full circle and leverage the popularity of SpongeBob to help the channel and the ratings through other marketing channels and other merchandising and so forth. So it all became like a virtuous cycle almost, so we started doing. We saw that merchandise. There was a lot of demand for merchandising, especially from retailers, and we just started doing everything. Yeah. Out there, we're not talking, T-shirts or notebooks. We're talking. I have a couple here of, that I can show. This is an actual, a cell phone, a SpongeBob cell phone. These are high-ticket items,
You're not kidding.
SpongeBob cell phone. We got this kind of beautiful, set of kids headphones, yeah. Right? And there were toasters, there were all sorts of things. The merchandising just went really through the roof, became a big revenue generator. Then we started doing, we started in Paris, actually. We started with an art show, which was all these classics, from Botticelli and Da Vinci and Michelangelo, but with SpongeBob replacing the main characters,
That's amazing.
As absurd as it sounds.
The SpongeBob replaced Mona Lisa.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Who needs Caravaggio? You got SpongeBob.
Yeah, exactly. We took his ear out and did Van Gogh, and so that toured. That went on and it went to major retail establishments. And which was a huge attraction. We actually we signed a deal with some amusement parks. We created a whole Nickelodeon, kiddie area. It was just everywhere, and
Sponge-mania.
Yeah, Sponge-mania, yeah, absolutely. And we eventually took the channel to number one in some markets. In Spain, for example, we overtook all the paid kids channels, and we were the number one channel.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Can I ask you about this piece of merchandise over here?
Sure, yeah. If you want to show it. So this has a different story, but go ahead, please show it. And
do you want to play?
This is.
There,
Evan,
can you do that?
You have a band. Why don't you play one of your?
I'll give you a little something here. Well, sounds pretty good.
That's pretty good.
It's better than us.
So what is the story behind the SpongeBob guitar?
So the SpongeBob guitar, at the time we had this was the beauty of, when you work for a company like Paramount, you had MTV, Nickelodeon, Paramount, channel, Comedy Central. There's all these properties, right? We were doing at the time a very popular reality show called Alaska and Mario, and this was a very eccentric, kind of very MTV-ish attitude of this eccentric, famous, popular Spanish singer with a yet more over the top eccentric gay husband, and they were getting married, and that was the first episode was all about that, and then the couple went on with further seasons. So I figured it'd be a great idea to kind of inject SpongeBob, and that would help the cause with the MTV channel, bring in SpongeBob into the channel, and it would help SpongeBob's popularity being in this big reality show as well. So because the couple were musicians and DJs and so forth, I said it'd be great to have a musical instrument, and so I contacted Gibson. I said, hey, we'd love for you guys to do a custom guitar with SpongeBob and so forth. And they said, look, we'd love to do it, but we can't do that. We reserve that's for like Eric Clapton's of the world, So the brand is just too high up there for them to play with it. So they did say they have the Epiphone brand also, and they said we can do one of those, and that's how it started. We got the one of our creatives in the team designed the actual face of the guitar. We sent the assets to Epiphone. They produced it, and then it ran on the show as one of the wedding gifts.
That's incredible.
Didn't they make three guitars?
No, just
two.
Just there were two. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's really interesting hearing how you're able to leverage all those different synergies across these different brands. When things are working, you find these partners that want to be a part of something like this, and can benefit everybody.
Yeah. It becomes kind of like I said before, like a virtuous cycle of where it becomes a win-win to retailers, to the channel, to even to the like I said, parks and recreation and so forth, right? It became a very a great and a lot of fun success story.
Oh yeah. Now, taking a brand that is already established like Nickelodeon, taking it to a different market, let's talk about a channel and starting it basically from scratch. Because didn't you also worked on the Paramount channel, the initial launch of that, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So we had there was a strategy from Global. They said we want to try doing an all 24 movie channel, right? And they selected Spain. Turned out to be a very successful kind of pilot market. We did a lot of specifically in Spain. We did a lot of like new stuff like SpongeBob guitars and stuff like that. And so they said let's try it in Spain. Let's launch a 24 movie channel. And see how it goes. We owned, obviously, the company owned the Paramount Studios and Paramount Pictures, but there was no such channel, right?
Yeah. Now that's a pretty crowded space. You have the Cinemaxes, you have HBO, and then also at a time of streaming with Netflix and stuff like that. So, what was your thought of how you can kind of differentiate and compete with the likes of the more established players in that market?
Yeah, so good point. It very competitive. Well, two things: a highly competitive and a kind of declining market as well. So it's kind of a double challenge to say the very least. But the channel was on free to air, so it wasn't on cable, and so it was advertising based, ad revenue based. And like you said, there were a lot of, and all those channels were gaining popularity in Europe at the time, the Netflixes of the world and so forth. So how do you position it? So many of the platforms that you just mentioned, they had a lot of, from our point of view, a lot of distractions, and put that in quotes, And the reason they were doing series and comedy specials and all this stuff. Paramount had an amazing library of classic movies, Vanilla Sky and what's it called? American Beauty, The Godfather, like the classics, like some of them, all bunch of Oscar winners. And so we wanted to do a channel that was all about just celebrating movies, great movies, classic movies, that you want to watch again. Even if you've seen them 2-3 times, you'd want to watch it yet again. So there's our core audience was really the movie buffs, kind of the people that were into movies, into classic movies, into, want to see Gregory Peck also, and whatnot, Audrey Hepburn and so forth. So we positioned the channel for them. We said no, people want to see. People want to see, reality TV, sports, and soccer, and whatever. But there's a space there for just the movie buff of that moment of the weekend or whatever it may be, or the evening, right? So we came up with a positioning, a campaign that was all over out of home posters and bus shelters and around cities in Spain, and they all feature just a classic scene of these movies. So you see Marlon Brando, the close up with where he's wearing that tux with at The Godfather. You see the young, I forgot her name, the young actress, the blonde actress with all the petals for American Beauty, and you see Penelope Cruz and Tom Cruise on Vanilla Sky, kind of that scene. So scenes that you don't need to name them, people know what they stand for, right? And then we had a headline in Spanish that translates pretty well into English, which said, "Drama queens, your channel has landed." So the drama queens are the people that are you've got that kind of like, oh my God, he's such a drama queen, kind of thing. But then there are people that love drama, right? That love so it had the same double meaning in Spanish actually. And it was great. It was great. It was a great campaign. People loved it. It was like all over towns, and it was a great way to just to launch a channel, a channel that was very very much devoted to that vertical, just classic movies.
And using that iconography, being able to, that's like having a treasure chest, of iconography and being able to use it.
Absolutely. The first question that came up was like, do we have the rights? When we presented it internally, I said, do we have the rights to these images? Because these are worth a lot, And we did. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. It was a great story, great success. It actually, it was the second most successful TV channel launch in the history of Spanish television.
That's incredible.
Which was huge. And we were beaten only by, I think, one of the state-owned channels, but it was a great hit. And but what was more interesting is that it opened the doors to what became the kind of ongoing life of Paramount channels, and transformations. There was no such globally. Paramount was always a movie studio. That was the first time anything with the brand Paramount was put on a TV channel.
Oh, and now it's a huge streaming network, and you have this entire like the Yellowstones and that whole universe.
Yeah,
and it all starts somewhere.
Right.
Yeah.
And the seeing that start here and go to there, that's incredible to be at the birth of that.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, and a great brand to work with. Yeah,
fantastic.
Well, you were definitely at birth of a lot of brands.
Yeah, we tried. Yeah,
that's why we have many episodes.
Yeah.
To go.
Coming soon.
Yeah. I think that does it for this episode of Branding Across Industries. If you want to check out more episodes of the podcast, please go to themachine.biz/podcast. Carlos, Naera, thank you again for joining me.
Thank you.
Thanks, Evan.
Thank you.